I'm Dan Sullivan. I'm one of the programmers here at Film at Lincoln Center and a member of the selection committee for this, the 2020, the rescheduled 2020 edition of New Directors, New Films. And I am joined this afternoon by Carlos Lenin, the director of The Dove and the Wolf, which you just saw. Hello, Carlos.
Hi.
So yeah, since we can't all be together in New York, or we couldn't all be together in New York earlier this year, we're going to make up for lost time and discuss the films in this year's lineup, and we'll be discussing The Dove and the Wolf right now. So maybe, Carlos, maybe we could just begin by sort of talking about the kind of the narrative frame of the film, the kind of the juxtaposition of a kind of like a romance, like a love story, sort of married to this the tension of the specter of like cartel violence and everyday casualties in within the working class. Could you talk a bit about how you arrived at this kind of juxtaposition of the love story and this kind of the threat of violence or a history of violence or what have you?
Well, I try to construct a film that actually represents the way I was feeling myself in my hometown. I'm from Linares. I'm from Monterrey, and I want to share the experiences that I have in my hometown, vinculated to the violence and the love stories that construct me as a person. And when I start to imagine this movie, I want to be very honest with the people, and I want to share the way I feel the love stories that surround me, and also the violence that I actually have I don't know if this word works well, but the violence that I have that I have experienced in my hometown. That's the origin of all of this. The reality that surrounds me, and the feelings that I want to share with you, with the people, about this specific kind of love, loneliness, fire, water, violence. That's it. Maybe it's not too much in a conceptual way, but it's all about my experience in my hometown, in my dreams, in my reality.
Yeah, and maybe we could talk a bit about some of the preparations and the writing and so on. Considering the film has like a lot of very stark, striking, really arresting imagery, and I'm always curious about how kind of like imagery enters into the writing, like the preparations and the writing of a film. But it also strikes me that the Dove, you have like this very delicate like sort of tonal like layering or modulation in the film, and I'm wondering how much of that is sort of on the page, as they say, or how much of that kind of emerges once you begin shooting and collecting images and so on.
Well, a lot of the construction of our language inside the movie, inside the frame, emerged while we were looking for our sets or locations, because I write a story. I write a story that have certain characteristics, but suddenly in the real life I have experience a lot of real life stories that obliges me to back to the script and rewrite a lot of scenes, because I find myself trying to shoot a movie that I don't believe it exists in the reality. So I rewrite everything just a few months before we start the filming process, the production process. I rewrite a lot, and then we have these several weeks when we go to the actual spaces where we're gonna shoot the film, and I start to looking where the camera can be, where the camera can exist to let us search the real emotions, the real identity, the real scratches that the walls have, that the bodies of the actors have, and we put the camera there and then rewrite a lot of the process, a lot of the scenes, because that's the way I believe I can share the most honest way of seeing this reality, of seeing these relationships, and construct them with the montage and the mise en scène, and that's the way I did that. I put the camera, and then I start to rewriting all the actions, all the dialogues, and that's kind of the way we work with that.
Yeah, and then so this actually might be a good moment to talk about your collaboration with your cinematographer here, especially just considering how pivotal it seems like these really like fundamental questions about where to put the camera, how far should it be from the performers, and so on. Could you could you just tell us a bit about your collaboration with your cinematographer, and this is your debut, your feature debut, no? So it just seems like it's an even more important collaboration for that reason. So
yes, well, my collaboration with my DP, with Diego Tenorio, starts while we were working in our in our first short films in school. We have a lot of works made together, and in this movie we try to. I'm also a DP of formation. I have the specialty as a DP in my film school, the QUEC, the NAC, and I start. We arrived to this project trying to let us an open space to imagine what kind of images can emerge of this specific tale, and we were very open to hear the sets, the locations, the histories that the people that surround us, and not necessarily as a production members, but the real people that were surrounding us. We hear their tales, their stories, and we try to take that to construct images that actually represents the way both of us were there feeling. That kind of emotions. We arrived to the set with we arrived to the pre-production with no references of other movies, just paintings from Goya, Jose Rivera, Tintoretto. We work with that. That was the origin of our images, and I believe that that's the origin of the process. We read a lot of times the script. Diego, my DP, has very clear the reasons that I have to shoot this movie. while I was younger here in my hometown, I lived a very violent experience vinculated to these drug cartels. That experience accompanied me while I was while I was studying filmmaking, and Diego know my story, and I share this feeling of fear, of darkness, of loneliness. That's in that concept, that words are the soul of our visual construct, because I share with Diego the things that I feel when I survive to this thing, and that's the only compass that we have to search in the set, to search in the locations, and that's the risk that we have to take.
Yeah. Well, and of course, you know, one of the most central like conduits for conveying that that experience or representing it, or the performer, you know, the actors in the film. Maybe we could. I want to talk about them. Maybe could we talk about like about casting and how it proceeds in this context? Because it seems like you have to find some, it sounds to me like you were looking for something very particular here, but yeah.
Yeah, well, with the actors, the work with the actors was a little different. While I was writing the script, I was thinking on Armando, on the wolf, and I was thinking on Paloma, the dove. I know both of them, and I know their work, and I always have the I always know that I want them in my movie. With Dove, with Paloma, with the character Dove, the Spanish name is Paloma actually. Mm-hmm. I work a lot while I was writing the script. I imagine these actions, these progressions, and I send it to her. I share that advances with her, and talk about how this girl will, how these women would fight for his freedom, for his she's love, for everything that she believes that she deserves, and that helped me a lot to not just write the character that I was imagining, but to write a character more real, with more volume, with more in a good sense of the word, with more violence. We need that for this woman. And for Lobo, it was a little easier for me in a kind of way, because with Lobo, in Lobo, I reflect all my fears, all the post-traumatic experiences and sensations that I have after surviving to this kind of stuff. And I have a very direct conversations with Armando, the actor Armando Hernandez, and I share with him all. I don't take anything out. I don't protect myself from him. I give to him everything that I have, and he starts to construct this very passive, silent character that I believe in a kind of way represents my point of view of this, of surviving of this kind of experiences. It's not a good sensation after all. It's this kind of immobility and silence permanently surrounding you every day. No? Yeah. That's kind of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's heavy work, clearly. I'm wondering, but how? So then, when you're during the shooting, I think considering, especially like some of the sort of the visual strategies that you're pursuing, like how did the dynamic with the actors sort of change when you're actually at the location, considering how sort of essential locations seem to the entire kind of imagination of the film. So how do the dynamics kind of change when you're actually shooting, I guess?
Well, we read the script before every scene that we made. We read the script, and I try to reduce every scene that I write to the essence of the scene. And meaning that I try to reduce a lot of actions and try to concentrate my gaze to the essential things of the silence, of the movement, of the presence of them as a characters there. And when I reduce the actions, they have the possibility to explore the space with his body, with their body, with their silence, and that helped us a lot to try to construct some kind of life that is actually happening on the screen, while we have these very precise frames, shoot after shoot, and I learned a lot of the process that they have. We talk a lot, and we try to every time to say the most possible things with non movement, with not dialogues, just with the presence, and allowed us to coexist as a characters, as an actors, me as a director, with the spaces. We also think, and I talk with that, and I talk about that with my actors. We think in the spaces as a characters, as a complement of their emotions, of their dramatical process, and that imagine that we have in our minds help us to explore the spaces, to let the camera be where it has to be, and to have some kind of communication with the space that let us to don't be afraid of share just this emotion, just this little thing. This little thing, it's enough for what we as a team we're looking on the sets, on the camera, on the time, on the silence.
Yeah, and like as you're saying, there's a real in the film. There are many very like geometrically kind of precise framings, and at times like certain images feel like tableau, which it makes sense to me that you and Diego were looking at paintings to arrive in part to arrive at this. But I'm also, another striking thing that's happening in the film, I think, visually and in terms of the performances, are like some of the things you do with blocking or staging. Especially like there are images of spaces that are quite deep, and there will be many things happening. Could you talk about this? I don't know whether it's not so much a device, I guess, it's just like it's a strategy for staging, but could you talk a little bit about, I guess, like the blocking with the performers?
Yes, talking about the blocking with the performance, I try to construct, first of all, the work with my first layer of image. Actually, not always, but sometimes in my first layer of the image, I have the secondary characters or that kind of stuff. I was always thinking on the necessity of surround my characters and their emotional process with all the world that is there existing with their life, with their violence, and I want that. So first of all, I construct the first layer of image. I want textures, or I want second characters, or I want darkness because I want to construct the image of the necessity of walk inside all this darkness and try to reach the little light that was existing in the end of the frame. So I construct the first layer, not the most important element, just the darkness and just this presence, this kind of identity, and then I construct the trace of the movements of the actors and of the protagonist of the scene. And when I construct the trajectory of the protagonist of the scene, then I start to construct all the elements around them. Yeah. But first of all was this first very precisely movement, this very precise trajectories, and then I start to move all the elements around them. I believe my belief was that if I work in this kind of way, I can construct more living frames, more even when our intention was to stay there and see how these emotions vanish in front of us with a very precise distance.
Yeah, and just as I think when you're talking about working with your actors, in much the same way that I think they have to conjure, like histories, tragedy, violence, trauma, and so on, without necessarily like enacting it on screen all the time. In that same way, I think the sound, like the role of sound in the film, also kind of functions to at times replace replace images that could have been there, or to sort of as I saw it, like deliberately kind of not leave a gap, but make the viewer, not make it so easy for the viewer, not spell everything out visually. I was wondering if you could just, if we could talk briefly sort of about the derivation of the sound design in here, considering, and I think it like, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it like functions quite differently at different points in the film. So yeah.
Well, about the sound, for me was very important. I was trying to talk about a very difficult topic as a subtext, that this is the violence that surround us as a persons, and this specific kind of violence transform everything that we made in our ordinary lives. The violence is there even when we can't see it. The violence is there, just across the door, or in another colony, in another place, but it is there and we know it. So I want to construct this presence out of the frame all the time. So I decided to, and the reason of that was that I believe that if I show the specific images of the violence, I know they can be very powerful for in a kind of way, but I believe these specific images will avoid any kind of actual reflection or actual thinking on the consequence of the violences. I have this I believe that if I use these specific images of the violence, they will become just an spectacle of the violence. And I don't want that, because that's not my experience. That's not what I want to share. The thing I want to share is the void, is the loneliness that I feel when I live these kind of experiences. And I believe the sound make us this can provide us and the spectators this direct freeway to our unconscious thoughts. And I believe that if I don't share these specific images, just the sounds, just the screams, just the ambience of that, I believe that the spectators in their home or in the theater gonna feel that void with their own experiences. And then maybe we can talk about this violence, just maybe. And that's the reason that I made this movie and this work with the sound in this specific kind of way. And yes, as you said before, then the sound works differently in the distinct moments of the movie. That's because, well, in the movie we have a very some different kind of intentions in different moments of the film. So I try to construct that with the I try to play with that identity of the sound. Sometimes it's more realistic, and sometimes it totally appeals to the subjectivity of our characters, to try to be a little time inside of their heads and talk with that, and hear the reality of the fear, or hear the fear the same way that my character is hearing that, it's feeling that noise, that silence, that identity. For me, the sound, it's a character, and the spaces are another one, and my protagonist, well, they're the other one.
Yeah. Maybe let's we can conclude by actually, well, this is a question. My question, I guess, is related to the title. I promise it's not such a superficial question. I'm wondering, like, given much of what you've been saying of circumstances that preceded the film, that kind of conjured it in your mind in the first place, I think the film is pitched somewhere between this more almost documentary or autobiographical, and then, but you're also talking about the universality, the universality of experiences of violence, trauma, and so on. And I think the title almost suggests like a parable, or something folkloric. It's it's the hedgehog and the fox, or the turtle and the hare, and now the dove and the wolf. So perhaps, I don't know how intentional that was, but I think but it does in some way, I think, get at how this film is. There's almost like a reportage element, and there's a more kind of cosmic, mythological, metaphysical thing going on. So could we conclude by just talking about kind of whether you see the film sort of in between these two impulses, and kind of how you negotiated that?
Well, yes, these two kinds of worlds exist inside of the conception of the movie. I try to construct a world that emerge from a very naturalistic contemplation of life, but I really want to play to explore this naturalistic space, this naturalistic reality. I want to explore that. Allowed us as a team and allowed me as a director to construct some kind of non-realistic point of view, because I believe if in this naturalistic space, I believe that if we are here in this naturalistic space, contemplating this action, this time, this silence, and suddenly we can just go to the detail, even when the detail is a long image with just a little of emotion existing there. For me, that's a kind of non-realistic approximation of the reality. I believe that if we have this kind of distance, uh, we gonna be capable not just to see the drama or the history, but in other kind of way we're gonna have the possibility to dialogue with these emotions, these realities, and maybe just maybe make that experiences that are existing in the screen, make that experiences ours, wherever we are. So I don't want to construct a movie that just have the in a good sense of the word, that not have just the heavy, the weight of the reality of the naturalistic contemplation of the things, because I believe as a director I can do that. I can't take the reality, and it's very hard. It's impossible. That I believe that's because we try to make some art. We try to make movies because the reality is there and it's beautiful, but it's impossible to take it and construct a movie where these beautiful things actually can exist with all his or their particularities. No, so I try to see these naturalistic spaces, explore that these tiny details, and let all of that just vanish in front of us. I believe that is more. I believe that was my point of view of this reality, of this story, and I learn a lot seeing these spaces, hearing these spaces, and also sharing all my actual fears, all my actual experiences, all constructed by my subjectivity. So that's the two forces that exist in this movie. And saying with all honesty, these two forces for me, for this movie, were the soul. They were the soul of this kind of construction, the reality and my subjective fears, my more honest point of view. That's the origin of all of this. Actually, in the beginning, the movie has another name that led me, while we were in the work in progress process. The movie has another name because it provided me a better distance to share these specific experiences with the audience, with my crew. But when we arrived to the end stage of the movie, we decided to go to a more simple title that actually makes sense for us. That was the name of the character as a, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Questionary tale, just a simple tale, child tales.
Right.
And I believe that I do that. I make that decisions just weeks before we have our premiere. But well, that's kind of the process.
Yeah. Well, why don't we leave it there? But I want to thank you very much for this film, and for taking the time to talk with us. And yeah, I hope we'll get to hang out in person one of these days. You know, at some point in the future, there will be film festivals again, just like before. But anyway, Carlos, thank you very much, and yeah, take care.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you, everyone, for sharing their time with us and with our movie. Thank you very much.